Hello, my name is Brady Buckner, and I am the president of the Financial Services Innovation Coalition, or FSIC as we call it, FSIC. We are an economic empowerment platform where we study the issues that show how people are living in the economy and how we think they should do it better. We take that research and turn it into programs and communities, and then we go to these communities and teach them how to advocate for themselves in a more effective way. So today, the idea of our show is our reality has not been realized by most people. Our reality has not been realized by most. So to give you a couple numbers to start this off, there's a thing called the Household Survey of Homes, and it's about how many people are actually working. How many jobs are there for people who want to work? Since the beginning of the year, we have lost 1.5 million jobs. So there's another survey that talks about how many jobs have been created, but that is meaningful, but it's not as meaningful as this number that says how many people are working. Well, it's about 1.5 or 1.7 million less at the end of June than it was at the beginning of the year. That's not good. These families are being affected. It could be as many as 3 million jobs lost net by the end of the year. That's 3 million earners, 3 million families. Or how are they going to pay their bills or rent? How are they going to do that? Explain that to me. So another number I want to talk about is the daily deficit. How much are we borrowing to pay for the mismanagement of our country? Our elected leaders have failed us, and the budget deficit is $5.7 billion a day that we have to borrow and that we're going to have to pay for because they can't manage the budget. The infighting is too much. They can't manage the budget. The conservatives have traditionally, and I'm talking decades ago, traditionally, were the budget hawks and said, we can't do this. We have to balance the budget. Well, they never did, and they never have, and it's just getting worse. There's been literally trillions of dollars of debt racked up during this administration, and Biden wasn't much better. But trillions of dollars in debt to pay for all these things in the country we need. So just think of it this way: in the fiscal year for the U.S. government is September to September, and in this fiscal year, we have borrowed more to make up for the deficit than the whole year of 2025. Do you think that's going to get better in 2027? Our leaders are doing nothing about this, and they need to, and we need to hold them accountable. The stock market is showing weakness. Not sure what that means for you and I, because most of us don't really participate meaningfully in that. Some money in the 401k, but the stock market is, for about 20% of, the wealthiest people in this country. In AI news, as people look at the AI companies, they're becoming more and more disruptive. But we're starting to look at their IPOs that were so exciting in the last couple of years, and that everybody wanted a piece of this next thing that's just going to blow up and make everyone rich because they're going to lead the way. These are the top companies. We're realizing that these companies are going public, and maybe there's no there, that there's not real value in these companies, and that the price that they're commanding for their IPO, the starting price for the shares, is way too high. In fact, SpaceX the other day just dropped below its offering price. This is a real problem for that company or that set of companies. They're also realizing the AI companies, one of the things that we didn't expect is they're not feeling the real profit value for laying people off and installing AI workers. It's something we never really talked about before because we didn't imagine it happening. We just assumed that companies were going to save a lot of money by getting rid of human beings, human workers, and installing AI workers. And so far that hasn't been realized. I think that's a surprise to a lot of these companies. Bears watching. Here's the one. This is the one. This is the. You just got to shake your head and you got to pray that we can all get together and do something to change the direction that these. It's basically five massive companies working on AI and trying to win that race. It's good that we have the competition we do, but our country, we don't have antitrust anymore, so they're going to allow some of them to consolidate so that they can compete. Not capitalism. Allowing an oligopoly is not capitalism. Letting these countries get too big so they can quote unquote compete with China is a terrible idea. It's a mistake. It's not capitalism. So don't let anybody fool you. So it's not capitalism, and this is not capitalism. OpenAI has gone to the government, and now they're proposing to the Trump administration that it takes a 5% stake in OpenAI, who does ChatGPT, and they're saying that it's for the benefit of the American people, that everybody should own a piece of this, through the US government. And 5% is going to amount to tens, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars. And it's for the good of the American people. No, it is not. It is a bailout for this company, for OpenAI. They spend money faster than they're making it. They were the darling for quite a while because ChatGPT was the first one that really taught people how to use AI. They were on top of the world. Oh, they're going to crush all the other companies. Whoa, Anthropic comes along with a better product, starts making the money, and now OpenAI is running out of cash. And so their idea is not, well, let's go borrow more money or have more investors. No, they're running out of investors. Investors are realizing that spending this amount of money this fast isn't getting to where they thought they should be, and that the company may not be profitable for who knows how many years or decades. So therefore, they're much less likely to invest or lend to a company like OpenAI. Now, Anthropic is the company that put Claude out, that the model called Claude. And Claude is very successful. They took away a lot of market share from OpenAI or created new market share because it's a good product. I've used it. They're the darling right now. They're on top of the world. They're the one that's going to crush everybody. But again, this industry is so disruptive, and it's even disrupting itself. We don't know what's going to happen. And you're talking about billions and hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars in disruption in the world. And we don't really know what's going to happen. We have some ideas, but not really. So do we want OpenAI to get a bailout using your money and my money? No. In a capitalist economy, if the business fails, the business fails. And these mystical leaders of these AI companies who are just so genius and they have failed at managing their business, and they deserve to fail. They don't deserve a bailout. Those assets in that company will come under new leadership and it'll go in a different direction. But the leaders of the companies need to take responsibility. That's capitalism. If you make a big mistake and go out of business, it's your fault. It's not the country's fault. It's not the government's fault for not bailing you out. A bailout, it's socialism. It's taking your money and redistributing it to these wildly important companies. And they are important, but the leadership of them, if they can't manage the business and build their product correctly, capitalism says they go out of business and someone else takes over and picks up the pieces from there. And that's what makes big companies stronger. Bailing them out only leaves poor leadership in place. So what happens to the AI industry if this does happen? We don't know again. I'm just going to reiterate that it's going to be wildly disruptive. I believe in the long run it'll be good, but for the short term, it has already been responsible for millions of people losing their jobs. And these are not jobs working at a fast food restaurant. These are engineer jobs. These are coders jobs. Remember, we spent the last 20 years trying to teach everyone to code, and now the AIs can code infinitely faster and cheaper than a human being. So we have all these coders that are going to be out of work more and more. Now, there's going to be some working, some humans are going to be needed, but not nearly as many. So this disruption is going to affect us tremendously. We don't know how. We don't have leaders in Congress that understand it well enough or have the political or moral understanding of it to help us. So we have to elect leaders that do. That means you and I have to become more involved in the political process. It's no longer acceptable to say, "Oh, that won't affect me. I don't care. I don't understand that." You need to. This is the time in the country. I used to say, I understand people that, they're busy at work. They don't have time for these things, but you have to make time now, because if you don't, you're saying, I'm willing to deal with whatever scraps the billionaires are going to lend me. You're not going to be in a better financial situation if this wealth distribution keeps going and all of the productivity of AI models goes to the companies that are making them. And again, it's like five major, maybe there'll be another one, I don't know, but it's five major companies. So they're getting all this productivity. It's failing right now, but eventually it's going to work in some way. So think about this. Since 2000, I talked about this a little before, 40% of all the wealth created has gone to the top 1%. So this is from 2000. So some of you weren't even born then. All this wealth, 40% of it has gone to the top 1%. The bottom 50% have accumulated 1%. So 50% of the country has made 1%, and 1% of the country has made 40% of all of the new wealth and value created in this country. This country we're all lucky to be a part of. This country that has vast riches and resources that are being mismanaged by current leadership. By current leadership, I mean the last multiple administrations, not just one or the other. So what's happening is, back when you had 50%, the middle 50% of the country, we call that the middle class, and they were financially stable. You could buy a home, you could buy a car too. You had a pension, you had paid vacation, you could live a very financially stable and a very high quality of life. And this is from the 50s, post World War II, through the 1970s or 80s. And since then, maybe it was starting with the Reagan years. I don't know exactly, but there was a sense, up until then, there was a sense of fairness, and there was unity in the country. We were all Americans. Some of us weren't trying to claim the flag for our own. We were all together. We were Americans, and life was good for a lot of people. This is back when the income tax rate was 90% for the top earners. We did away from that, and we're supposed to, if we give these captains of industry the money, then it'll trickle down to us. Well, who wants a trickle? I know I don't. Why did anybody ever fall for that? Why are they still falling for that? There's still policies in place that say if we cut taxes for the wealthy, they're going to be able to put that money to good use in a capitalist economy, and then it's going to benefit all of us. And it hasn't. It's failed over and over. It's never worked out. And since 2000, the train has left the station, and you and I, our income is less and less and less every day, and their wealth is more and more and more. So it's taken away, back when we had that 50% of the country, the middle 50% of the country is the middle class, we had a sense of fairness, we had a sense of unity, and now we've lost that. All the wealth that is created and captured by people that do not spend it, they hoard it. It's hurting all of us, because you need money swirling around the economy if it is a capitalist economy. So we don't have that. We have a bunch of people at the top hoarding money, and they buy art and stocks and things that don't help you and don't help the economy directly. So it makes it, every time that some of this wealth is being robbed by the upper 1% unfairly, they buy assets, and income has not been keeping up with assets. And let me explain. So if somebody gets money they don't need, they're going to quote unquote invest it, whether it is the stock market or buying property, buying a second home or rental homes, or they're going to buy land or they're going to buy a business or something. You only make money in this country because you own assets. Having an income is not enough. So if you own assets, you're making more and more and more money. And if you only have an income, maybe you have a house, maybe you don't. If you only have income, you're getting poorer and poorer every day compared to what they're doing because they're buying all these assets and they're driving the price up. So I think we all know somebody that went to buy a house and got outbid by a private equity firm or a company, real estate company, because they had a cash offer and you didn't, or the person didn't have a cash offer. And it meant you were going to have to finance and go through the underwriting process. Or maybe you have a contingency that you want to sell your house before you can move into the new house. All of that's complicated, and an owner will take a discount to take that cash offer because it's so much cheaper and easier. And the companies and the private equity will always be able to outbid you, always. And they are. You are not in a position to get the house you want because they're just going to go buy it for an Airbnb or a rental property, or maybe a flip. They're going to buy it at the price that you can't afford and then try to flip it to somebody that has a lot more money than you, that maybe they need a house. That's fine, but it's not helping you. So again, you're going to continue to fall further and further behind as long as all you have is income and you don't have assets. So, the way we're going, unrest is going to be there because there's a very low probability of reversing these trends of wealth accumulation at the top, of political leaders. They do basically most things to stay elected because it's in their best interest. They have the wrong incentives to help people, and campaign contributions are called campaign contributions and not bribes. But if you see a politician running to a fundraiser, that's because they're expecting donations from wealthy people and companies. Well, I know that if I give no money to my elected official because I can't hardly pay my bills, and this company pays thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars to their super PAC, when they call, their phone call gets answered and something gets done. When you and I call because we can't afford to do that, we're not going to get a call back. We may be lucky if we're real savvy and can get in the office and talk to one of their staffers, and the staffers will go, "Oh yeah, we're going to look at that. We'll get back to you." And they never do it because all their time is spent helping the people that gave them the campaign funds. So I think I'm going to stop it there, but I'll leave you with a couple of other troubling points. I hate to be gloom and doom, but this just had to come out of me today. No one is taking responsibility. There's many people delaying retirement, and this is a real problem for my generation and the generations after, is that if the people ahead of you work later and later and later because they want to or because they have to, because they don't have enough for retirement, it delays your advancement and your increase of income and ability to better yourself. And this is going on decades now. And the people that just want to do it, well, it's their choice. We can't tell them. But to me, it's unfair because somebody moved out of their way so that they could get that next best job. And those people retired. And people that can't retire, I understand that. But it doesn't make it right. It makes it harder for every generation that comes after if people are working longer and longer. Bottom line is, if the citizens of this country, and I say, forget the Republicans, forget the Democrats, the citizens of this country. Too many people love to shout about how much of a patriot they are and how much they love the U.S. and how much they love their leader because it's part of their personality. When in reality, they're not doing better. They feel better by saying these things, and they feel better by hating the people across the aisle. But they're not politically active in a meaningful or helpful way. maybe you could explain to me how blindly following one party or the other has made your life better, because I don't think it has. And if you really want to be intellectually honest and face the truth, if you're supporting one party or the other, you're part of the problem, because it is not creating solutions for the financial instability that has been created by this massive transfer of wealth that's gone on for 25 years. And Obama, Biden, Bush, Trump, none of them have done anything to help. So why would they start now? So with that, I'm going to leave you. I feel like it's been a good talk, and I'll come back with some solutions next time and maybe not be so grumpy and full of doom and gloom, because there is hope, and we just have to find it and make our elected officials put policy in place that will help us realize that. So thank you.